Mr. Robinson, the bad man, I suppose I'll have to call him throughout all this segment, decided to host his second documentary screening in Telford on Saturday. And me and John went down to film it, see what was going on, hang out with the communists who turned up. It's not me being facetious, literal Communist Party flags amongst them all, so we shall see that. And we're going to go through it and just tell you what happened, because no one else will, apparently.
Yeah.
The mainstream media there won't. Although I will give a shout, of course, to Hearts of Oak and Voice of Wales do great work as well, who were there. But we'll go through this. So the first thing to mention is just a little shill in relation to this, which is on lotuses.com, the article from Ella Hill, the Home Office is hiding anti-white hate crimes and helping the cover-up of grooming gangs. This is the fact that abusing children on a racial basis is still not a hate crime if the child was white, according to our government. I mean, for foreigners who don't know, like, this problem goes way to the top and way to the bottom. Like, the whole Home Office and policing system in our country is buggered.
Ella Hill's also done a really interesting analysis in which the statistics are kind of massaged in order to hide the fact that the majority of victims are young white girls.
And they'll display them in certain ways to push a narrative and never in both ways to determine the reality. But we'll go forward. So we'll go to the next one, of course, so we can see the fact that he was in court the day before and he wasn't actually sure if this was even going to go ahead. And these hyenas turned up here.
Look at those jackals.
Yeah.
Look at his smile. He's thrilled.
This guy saying he was from, I think it was the Press Association and a whole bunch of others who were saying they're independent. So he asked them, so that's wonderful. You've all come to court because I owe someone some money, according to the court. That's a big story. Anything I do apparently is a big story. So I'm premiering this documentary about grooming. Are you going to come to that? All of them say no. 100% of them say no.
There was I watched this live stream. There was a BBC, a female BBC journalist who he was like, okay, well, what do you cover? And she's like, well, I'm covering an interview with a rape victim. And he's like, oh, well, I'm doing the same, basically. Would you be interested? And she's
want a collab?
and she's weirdly dismissive and like she's got this weird hysterical laughter where she's like, oh, no. It's like, why?
Like,
why is that victim any less worthy?
It's a weird admission from her, de facto, that she knows the whole thing's corrupt. She knows what she's doing corrupt, but she's just like, well, it's a job. So,
and he's powerless to stop it.
Yeah. We'll move forward because, of course, you can find the documentary in question. We don't have time to show it because it's very, very long. On Getter, being the account there at... I'm not going to read that in case the bot picks it up.
Lord Voldemort one on Getter.
Yeah, so go and check it out there. And also, obviously, big props to Getter for actually giving you a platform to stream it and all the rest of it. However, let's go forward. So we turned up and we met the Neo-Trotskyists. That's not a joke. They literally call themselves Neo-Trotskyists.
Who makes these banners?
This is the Socialist Workers' Party in the UK. They literally describe themselves as Neo-Trotskyists. And they're in with their stand up to racism, being an organization which they say they run. So, again, fantastic. Lots of trots out there. And I suppose we'll move to slide 0 here, so the first one, being the we turned up and we tried to take photographs, as we did last time, just to see what was happening. And this time around, they were very hostile to anyone with a camera. They did not allow me to take photographs. They were not interested.
Oh, really?
Like, no, can't have that happen. And they started that off by shouting at us, "Wo sind deine Papiere, Juden? Where are your papers?"
Okay.
No, they literally said, "Where's your NUJ card?" And I'm like, "I don't have one. I'm a dude with a camera." And they're like,
NUJ?
"Yeah, National Union of Journalists." Like, and they wouldn't let us in without the correct papers.
Oh, okay.
So that's anti-fascist for you. If we go to the next one, though, you can take pictures from the side. And if you click on the first one there, we can see the size of the number of people that turned up. Huge numbers of commies, but... yeah, it's not that huge in case you're listening. It's typical size for this rent-a-mob crowd. Yeah. And if we go to the next...
You know they're a rent-a-mob as well because they turn up with exactly the same stand-up to racism banners. Every single time, they're exactly the same banners.
It's like a corporation.
Yeah.
Like they all turned up with Amazon logos on their backs, on their placards and everything. It's very weird. I mean, very, very weird. Same trade unions, same speakers as well for each one. Same people as last time. Most of them from out of town.
I do wonder who funds them.
Well... the Conservative Party at one point, which was embarrassing, but not anymore. So if we move forward, if we go to the next link, then we should be able to see...
I mean, hang on. Sorry, can we go back to... I mean, literally communist flags.
Yeah, Communist Party of Great Britain there, presumably them, because it just says Communist Party, a load of them. This totally normal situation. If we go to the next link, though, we can see, if we load up the first one there, you can see them turning up in black bloc as well. Two chaps on the right there. One of them wearing a Proud Boys t-shirt, which...
What?
A friend of mine tried to explain that to him, but he didn't get it. We were like, oh, whatever then. So,
I heard about the Proud Boys on the internet in connection with Antifa, so I thought I'd go get the merch.
didn't think that one through.
Did none of his comrades be like, dude, why are you wearing that?
This is why you go and take pictures and then talk to them and be like, hey, so what do you stand for? And find out. And one of them is apparently ignorance of their own cause. Yeah, weird one. If we go to the next image in that link, however, this was also a new thing for me to see, which is there was some. I don't know what to call it. So people turned up wearing tails. I don't think they're furries because they're not wearing the full costumes, which I think is furry attire.
Okay, look, right. That's. I think that we can say that it's like someone turns up, they're not necessarily wearing an SS outfit, but they've got a little swastika pin, right? I'm happy to call that person a Nazi. Right, if you turn up wearing a goddamn tail hanging out of your ass
to a political protest,
you're a furry. Okay,
I mean it's a weird thing. I mean you can see the people with the jackets with all kinds of logos on, like some kind of teen rebellion going on here, in which they have smoking kills. There was another one that just said "I hate men," the one behind them, but she didn't have a tail, which was hilarious. And you know, I'm very tolerant. Do what you want. Who cares? But why would you bring this?
Smoke. I hate men. Also, I'm a furry.
But why would you go to a political protest with this? Of all things, you got the ears.
Why would you leave the house with this?
I know, but just like people are strange, okay? But to go to a political protest in your fetish gear, I mean, could you discredit your own movement any faster? I mean, think if you turned up in all leather with a gimp mask on. I'd be like, yeah, I'm here to oppose the bad man.
You'd be less cringe than turning up with a tail.
It's apparently a new part of the uniform, which is kink pride also extends to political movements now. If there was also some story we were given from one of the guys who was like, oh, why can't I come in and take photos? And he gave the excuse that, well, there's a reason we're hostile to photography of our side. Not this.
Because we look ridiculous?
No, the story was given that a 15-year-old was harassed by fascists and was not able to come this time round.
Oh, yeah.
Thing is, I only know one guy. This is thanks to a local supporter who was able to give me this information. There's one guy who was at the previous one who didn't come this time round. And if we go to the next one, it's this dude. This dude here.
He must be a migrant.
Apparently he was arrested for being violent. I won't go into the details. But yeah, he was the only one who wasn't there again, who I could verify wasn't there again. And the reason was because the police literally came to his house and arrested him for engaging in violence. So there's that. And
penalising this poor teenager.
Yeah, if we go forward, we can also see the fact that they uploaded the pictures of him. So the idea that this is anyone else's doing, it's your own doing, you morons. If this is some kind of problem for you. And as you can see, the speakers there being the same speakers.
It's just such a rent-a-mob, though, isn't it? It's all the same. Who makes the sign?
It's embarrassingly corporate. I mean, for a left-wing movement, you would have thought it's
if you would think if it was something, and this is how you can tell the difference between. Remember the freedom protests that were going on, right? People made their own signs and they had their own. Each person had a different message on the sign.
Reason they were there.
Exactly. What I'm bothered about is hand drawn. I put effort and energy into this, and then I came out and I marched because I'm genuinely bothered about this thing. You got this handed to you by some professional activist.
But I mean, they've got a reason to be there, which is the anti-fascist action. Remember, there are Nazis about.
Oh, yeah.
There are loads of Nazis. We go to the next one.
Because fascism is making sure that young girls don't get raped by gangs of Muslim men.
No, they're not talking about them. They're talking about these chaps. So these are the same two guys, the pensioners from the Chelsea Headhunters, who are hoping for the good old days again. And they turned up again. Remember we featured them previously. Yep. Giving like little wave Nazi salutes to mock them, so to get in a fight.
The fascist contingent has actually turned up.
They're two guys here. So if we go to the next one, we can see the fact that it's the same dude as last time, as we featured. It's some guys who want to fight and do not stay for the documentary, nor are even part of the bad man's crew.
But can we go back very briefly, just to the previous one, John? There's something weirdly awkward about this.
Yeah, there's also the fact you can't see it because you're not there, but there's the leftist guys, the communists are all there, and then they're like where they're stood is not where any of the bad man supporters are,
as you can see, because they're on their own.
But it's not even just like down the road anymore. It's like you had to go all the way around to come around, so they're not even involved in the slightest.
But it's just weirdly awkward. Who are you guys? We're the fascists. And it's like, okay,
you're 60.
Yeah, and no one likes you. What, you're on your own? What's going on?
So we'll move forward. If we go to the next one, we can see it's the same guys as last time. If we move forward again, we can also see, again, idiots. They say they're here supporting the bad man in Telford. And why are they on your side then, you idiots? Why are they talking to you instead of watching the movie like everyone else? So we'll move forward.
Hello, fellow socialists.
Yeah, if we move forward, this is just the back block, so we'll skip over this one. And we'll go to what happened on the bad man, Robinson's side of the situation. So they all met up at a pub to gather, and then they walked down on a little march to then go watch the movie. And this was an interesting moment because some group turned up, Patriotic Alternative, who are white nationalists. And, well, of course, the bad man isn't.
Yes.
He's not a white nationalist, so he wants no truck with such people. And we'll see what happened, which is they physically removed them. Let's play.
Shush, move. Are you lad patriotic talent? Are you from PA? Yes. You're not welcome here. You're not welcome here, lad. We don't want you here, right? So don't come here. Take your f***ing Nazi bullshit. Don't leave it. Go away, you're embarrassing. Take your mask down. You've got masks on because you're embarrassed. Why are you wearing a fucking mask? You've got masks on because you're embarrassed what you stand for. Get your f***ing Nazi arse out of our f***ing place. You're there for the wrong fucking reason. That's
Go away.
You're not welcome here.
Sport grooming gangs here.
You're not welcome here, lad. You're Nazi bullshit. You're not welcome here. Right? We'll get rid of it. We'll sort it. Where is it? Fucking Nazi woman. Where's the bird? Take that flag! Take that flag off your f***ing face, you Nazi fucking...
I find this hilarious on multiple fronts. Of course, it's very narrative splitting against what the media would like you to believe, but also the fact that the only anti-fascists of the day was Mr. Robinson and his supporters physically removing white nationalists from being anywhere near them.
I can't help but notice the dadism aspect of all of this as well. Like, Tommy must be coming on to like 40. He's got a family, he's got kids. The people with their faces covered wearing like youth clothes, obviously early 20s. People have been on the internet an awful lot. And what's Voldemort's response? You're embarrassing, go home. That's peak dadism.
Yeah, I mean, it's as clear as day what happened there. So
I find it really amusing.
Yeah, but there's also just the fact that the narrative endlessly is that he's a supporter of white nationalism. He isn't.
No, he never has been.
It's demonstrably the case that these are two different groups. Apparently, he did also say on camera to John's live stream, which is that he'd also told the police they're not meant to be here. The police know, and they didn't care. They let them in anyway, presumably to try and muddy the waters, because why else?
Why didn't they let the actual fascists in then? I suppose they only wanted to get to the communists, didn't they?
Yeah, they just wanted to wave. Yeah. We'll move on. So we go to the next one as well, which is, you can see, this is something I noticed, which is quite neat, if nothing else, which is that there are a lot of police officers there, of course. And this is just a photo at a point in which one survivor is explaining what happened to her and the horror she's been through. Initially, she actually told the bad man to F off and didn't want to talk to him. And then the abuser died in 2020, so then she's come forward and been like, okay, we need to deal with this. She's setting up a refuge, privately funded, to deal with victims of this crime as well. The previous problems, as she explains, is that the councils were funding them, which is a conflict of interest because the councils are facilitating this crime.
Yep.
And the police officers were all there watching and learning, which I think is an interesting side of the audience there, because they're on the lower ends.
Isn't it?
Yeah, they're on the lower ends of the policing rung as well. So it's good to know that the new branch are slowly being educated, at least, nothing else. Let's move forward. So we go to the next one. We have the police response, which was also to issue a supportive statement. Again, which is...
We're also not in favour of grooming gangs after watching this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, this is the effect he's able to have with his documentaries, which is to get statements from them which are at least positive. The police say here, quote, "I would encourage anyone who's been a victim to come forward regardless of when the exploitation took place. We will listen to them and we will ensure that they have necessary support." So, again, positive statements, actually producing results, which is educate the local people, educate the police, and the police openly saying, okay, no, we will do the right thing. Please come to us.
Thank God. The police are finally going to do the right thing on the grooming gang issue.
They may completely fail again. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But it is progress of a kind, unlike the, well, rather depressing lot who were sat around screeching about fascism, which, well, they were the only ones.
You know what's interesting, though? There's the aspect of this. Like, initially, like, if you go back a few years, it feels like the allegations that Tommy Robinson was a fascist had more teeth, right? They felt more convinced of it. But the longer this goes on, and the more this is clearly just about the fact that there are young women who have been abused, and the system has obviously failed them. And the confirmation from the system going, I mean, this is basically an admission like, yeah, we dropped the ball here.
But what's interesting, the depressing group of people, they don't deny any of that. I listened to all their speeches, both times. They literally say, yes, what happened to the girls happened. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, the police failed. Yes, the social services failed. You know, the political system. All of that ground they give. They just say that pointing out that it's disproportionately a certain group, that's bigotry, so we can't do that. However, of course, when it's a disproportionate amount of white men, that's fine.
But it's also just the case.
When it's Islam or someone with a slightly darker shade of skin than themselves, for some reason they get all protective about it, which is very revealing.
But like I said, it's interesting that the teeth have been completely. I mean, the opposition is defanged at this point. It doesn't bite. You know, it doesn't feel. You know, everyone's just like, look, we know what you're about. We know that you're just saying this because you say this.
You literally have Communist Party flags left, right, and centre.
Yeah, exactly.
Why on earth would we listen to you?
Yeah.
And if we move forward, the most interesting part of the documentary, do go and give it a watch. This aspect here, at least for me, was this owner of the restaurant in which it is alleged that the two chefs, or at least two of the chefs there, were engaged in this sort of crime. The bad man goes and says, well, would you like to see the evidence to the owner? And you'd think any responsible pub landlord would say, well, look, I can't make an action, like, you know, I can't fire them, I don't want to end up in an employment tribunal without the evidence and the proper procedure, so please, you know, show me and we'll do this right. No, he screams about Irish nationalism. He insists that, no, I don't want to talk to you, you're a fascist, and also you're a traitor to Ireland for pointing out that diversity isn't our strength. It's a very weird interaction.
Sorry, who's a traitor to Ireland?
Robinson, because he's got Irish blood in him.
Oh.
Like much of the country.
Right, so an Irish ethno-nationalist.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a weird thing, but
Okay.
do go give that a watch because it's strange if nothing else. But
you don't want young girls getting raped? I knew you were a traitor to Ireland.
Yeah, but it's you can see the value in the work. They're getting the police informed, getting the statements from the police, and also educating the people on who's around in the local area, running the businesses, and what their attitudes to all this is as well, which is, you know, their opinion. If we move forward, we can also go to the fact that the leftists seemingly don't care about photography because they've been uploading pictures of themselves when none of their face is blurred as well.
Very poor week for the British extreme right.
Whereas for you, this is a good day, is it? I mean, this is what I mean. I can't get it across more. It is such a depressing atmosphere to be with them. Not because of the subject matter of gang rape, and that's not the depressing part here even. That's the depressing part when you're with the bad man watching his documentary. Over here, it's just the people. I mean, just looking at the people. I mean, there's one guy who just walked around barking at people, his own supporters at times, and you think,
Is that the guy with the tail?
what? No, it wasn't. He was barking and, you know, shouting at them, and you just think, what a depressing atmosphere to even be around. Never mind this being your hobby, because they don't have anything else going on. It was the same people.
Oh, yeah.
So presumably this is their hobby, if nothing else, unless they're getting paid as well, of course. And that speaker there, if we go to the next one.
Sorry, just to go back very quickly. Anti-fascists were very proud and humbled to stand with victims of abuse today, except for the wrong victims of abuse.
No, they are not to be listened to.
It's just awful.
No. If we move forward, we can see the speaker there who was mentioning, I don't actually know if there were any victims of abuse there. She was the speaker just saying that she'd spoken to some, and they dislike the bad man because he's a racist. And it's like, oh God, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
A socialist historian describes herself there. So
I mean,
fantastic.
she's just like, if you wanted a picture of what political partisanship looks like, that's a good one.
Yeah, embarrassing. If we go to the next clip as well, I also wanted to demonstrate just the pathetic nature and the continued hostility towards any photography whatsoever. Let's play the next clip, please. So just you take a photo of them.
Low energy protesters.
Yeah, very
No Nazis. Yeah, we agree. Now
embarrassing. But if even you point a camera at them, they're all really hostile all of a sudden as well, which was interesting because I found it very interesting when you started filming their speeches and the things they would say. And I think that's the reason they're hostile to the cameras and the reason I've laboured on it. So
one thing that I also can't help but notice is a distinct lack of diversity in the
yeah, that was also true.
in the socialist worker protest.
It wasn't very diverse. In fact, they kicked John out previously for being a white supremacist, which if you don't know John,
They kicked John out for being Asian.
let's play the next clip though, because this is what their speeches were like and why I think they didn't like the cameras.
We are not finished. We will keep going until there are no more racists, no more fascists, and they are eradicated from this area altogether. Who's street? Who's street?
So there we have it, calling for the extermination of Robinson supporters.
They're going to eradicate people. I don't think I've ever said I'm going to eradicate someone.
That's right, I'm an anti-fascist.
I mean, literally using the word eradicate is a bit...
yeah, I'm going to eradicate all the racists from this area.
Maybe you could have educated all of the racists.
No.
You could have befriended them and changed their minds. No, we're going to eradicate.
To eradicate someone. So there we are, the Germans coming out there in their speech. And the last thing to mention, because that's how the day went, and you can go and enjoy the documentary as it is published and is full on Getter, is also I just wanted to mention I ran into Miles there as well, Lord Miles, who had just come back from Afghanistan from his trip there, and also showed me the wonders of Afghan currency, if nothing else.
That Afghan bank.
Yeah, it's like orcs.
I was going to say that. It's like orc currency.
They made a stomper, then they made the Afghan bank. I don't know why they write it like that.
And ironically, they believe it has value, and so it does.
Absolutely. So I will also be seeing the news coming out from Miles there. I don't know what I'm allowed to say.
It's weird that you and Miles look like brothers. Just point out that you look really similar to each other. Don't know why.
Both love the Taliban, simple as. That's a joke.
There's sort of physiognomy that appeals to that loves Afghanistan.
Yeah, so he'll be bringing out some footage and events with his own stuff soon. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, Miles, so I won't. But it'll be good fun if nothing else, and go and give him some love because he's having a tough time. He spent like a lot of money and a lot of time trying to orchestrate the liberation of a guy from Afghanistan, and then he cancelled like 20 miles from the border. And it's.
I'd rather live under the tyrannical regime of the Taliban.
Yeah, quite crushing for Miles, who did all the work and the money. So I'll give him some love. Otherwise, that was the event. That's Robinson versus the Communist round 2.
Honestly, it's good to see that the objections are getting weaker and weaker as more the pile of evidence in favor of the victims of the grooming gangs grows.
But also just the nature of these things, because looking back, you remember when the MSM used to go to these events and even try to report on them? They'd be biased. They wouldn't just give you the footage and be like, make up your own mind. But being there on the ground, after especially the second time in the same area, it is transparent, the kind of people that both groups are made up of, and transparent about who is authentic and who is clearly some kind of weapon and nothing more.
Yeah.
And you feel it in the people, you realise it in where they've come from. They've all come from London. They're all wearing the same banners. They're all having communist flags. These have got to be the good people. Whereas you go down to the families and guys with their doggos, and a lot of women, a lot of mothers as well, turning up to these documentaries, or even wallflowers, who probably know what's going on.
Yeah.
And just local people. And I think back to the MSN's reporting on his life and his activism and think, man, it's even more scummy after you realise how transparent it is on the ground to know who's in the right. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this premium video from Carl, The Secrets of Rousseau. And if you want to find out what else Carl's putting out, you can follow him on Getter at Carl Benjamin on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.